How to improve a GitHub repo to provide an amazing developer experience. It's so much more besides the source code, the problem that you are solving. Because if you fail some of those things, your source code, it might be brilliant, but it will not be used by anyone. So if you want to grow your open source project, or you want to provide a better experience to other teams that are part of your organization, you will want to watch these 9 actionable tips that are based on the things that I learned during my career when I had to do that as a full-time job, when my main mission was taking open source projects to a different level. So let's do it. Have a clear and descriptive README. The README is the most important file that you have in your repository. Why? The README file is the landing page for all the traffic that you get into your repo. So once someone lands into that README file, it should quickly understand what your project is doing. And in those first seconds, the person that is landing into your repo will have a perceived notion of quality. And that is quickly built by a glance view on your README file. So that's why it's so important to have a good README. Your README should be well formatted. And also, it should answer some essential questions, like, when I land into your README file, I should find the answer to the question, why should I care? So in a short form, you should explain there the mission, the goal of your project, what's special about that project, the why for that project to exist. That should be the first thing. Once you win my attention by a good why, when I can relate to that why, so your project is what I'm looking for, I need a clear answer of what can I do next in order to try it. So you have a quick starting guide, you should have the link there. I should also find right after that a clear explanation of what should I do in order to install that project. Because some part of the traffic that you will have is not those that are landing in for the first time into your project, is those that are coming back because they are adding it to a different place. So if I already tried in the past, I'm just looking for the instructions, something like which packages do I need to install? Do I need to download some things? Do I need to configure some keys? All those things should be there. They might not be there written on that page, but at least you should have the link to a documentation page where you can quickly find those instructions. The next one that is essential is, where do I find the documentation? If I'm coming to your repo and I want to understand features, I want to understand how to configure something, how to put something in practice, I should find the documentation always there. On the next one, we should address the questions of those that want to contribute to your project. So you should quickly link them to the contribution guidelines. Make sure that they have the proper documentation in order to do the first contribution to your project, so they don't get demotivated when they try to do it. And also, it's a good idea to explain there, what should I do if I want to get in touch either with the maintainers or with the community that is using that project. So if it should do it through GitHub issues, put a link there. Explain in this type of scenarios, create an issue. If I can go to a Discord or something like that, I can put a link there. So every place where I can find some help when using your tool, it should be there. And finally, it's extremely important, make sure that you have the license there. We will talk about the license later, but having the license linked on the README file is extremely important. When I'm reading, I want to understand the implications of using your project. And that makes a solid README file. Create a contributing file. This file will be linked on your README file, and it should explain quite clearly how should I act when I need to contribute to your project? Do I need to open an issue first? Do you have any type of conventions that I should follow? What's your coding style? But it's not only about the contribution of source code. It's also about how do I report an issue? What type of information should I gather when I collecting information for an issue? What if it's a new feature that I would like to have on the project? How should I behave? How should I get in touch with someone first? Should I create an issue? Should it be a discussion? Should I go first to the community that you have in other place? All those things should be there. And also it should be there, what should I do when I want to contribute? I will now grab the source code into my machine. What's the first steps that I should do? Do I need to install something? Do I need to run the application in a given way? So I should have the instructions on how to install things, on how to run my tests to make sure that they have the quality that I want. I want to explain them how to run the application. Basically, our goal is quite simple. We want to remove all the friction for a simple contribution. The complete process should be mapped out so it becomes clear and simple to bring something new or to bring a fix into your application. Otherwise, sometimes something simple but it's not that clear for someone that never used your project might be the reason why they don't contribute anymore, because of the friction that is induced by the process. So think about this document as a way to find help, to have people having a great experience contributing to your project, so they get back into your project to contribute even more. GitHub Discoverability. One thing that you want is to take advantage of the natural search of GitHub, and by the fact that me as a developer, when I'm looking for a given project to solve a given type of problem, I might use the GitHub search because most of the open source projects will be there. So I want to craft two important things in a way that anyone in the world can quickly find them. And the first of those things is the about, the description of your project. You should use it as a tagline with a short description of what your project is doing. So your goal here is to tell the users what your project is about, so they can decide to dig deeper and to understand better what that project is capable of or is not. Otherwise, they will move on to a different option that they will find in the list. And the other important thing is topics. Topics is something that works as kind of like keyword, and you should fill them based on expected search. So if you expect someone to search by technology in order to find your project, you can put there something like the language. If it's something related to a given framework, a tool, you can use that as a topic as well. So as a source of inspiration, you can use topics as things like the related technologies, related frameworks, the project name as well, and the programming languages. If your project applies a given type of pattern or strategy, you can put there the name as well. So if I'm looking for something like a retry policy for a given type of language, I can search for retry policy C#, and by using the topics, I can quickly find your project. Use issue and pull request templates. One of the first interactions that usually someone that is using your project will have with you before trying to contribute in some way is by trying to report either a feature request or an issue. Even knowing that you can have a good description of the process, a good guideline on how to do it as part of your contributing file, you can do something even better. You can use templates. And templates are an excellent way to tune the experience for someone trying to report something like an issue, like a feature request. You can have several templates. And in each type of template, you can define a different set of questions. For example, are you reporting an issue? Which version it is? Have you checked on the latest version? Can you define the preconditions for that to happen? Do you have any idea of what is happening? How is that happening? In which circumstances, in which cases that thing is happening? And now all of that information will help you as the maintainer of that project in order to quickly address that issue. And the good thing about it is not only the fact that you will have better information by the end, is above all that you are providing a good experience to the one that is typing the issue, and then they will fill in all the data that you are asking, and they don't feel as paralyzed when they are trying to fill an issue report with just a title and a description. And all that information that they are now putting there will reduce the time that you are spending in the back and forth discussing things like, can you try this? Can you tell me the version? Can you explain what is happening? All of those things will be there. And this gives a good image to the project as well, because now it's quite clear that you know what you are doing and you are doing it in the best way. You are trying to optimize the experience for the ones that are using your project. And which templates do we need? In my opinion, we need at least two. One for feature requests and another one for bug reports. Another cool thing that you can do is that besides those templates for forms to collect information, it lets you to expose also a link. That link will be something that you want to redirect someone to. For example, I might go to the option saying, okay, I want to report a new issue, and now I have 3 options. One to create a new feature request, another one to report a bug, and the third one like get in touch with the community on Discord. I can have something like create a new question on Stack Overflow with a given tag. Can have those type of links there as well to simplify the process of those that are reporting something. Add a license file to the root of your repository. The license is a key element of your project. If your project doesn't have a license, I will not use it, okay? It's a liability, and basically I don't know if I have the rights to start using that tool, that library, that framework, that whatever. So one of the first things that you need to think about is under which license you are making this project available. And that can be either a permissive license, or it might be something like you want to protect your rights in a given scenario. My advice on those cases is that if you want to have your project available without a lot of problems, without a lot of concerns, and you want to make it publicly available and you don't want to make money out of it, the obvious solution is by using something like MIT or Apache 2, because those two are permissive licenses that everyone, when they read it, they know what we are talking about. If you go to something different, like one of those GPL licenses, it might be a bit more confusing to understand what we are talking about, and some people might be scared of those. Obviously, it depends on what you are trying to achieve with your project. But the important thing is that it's quite clear which license you are using it, and it's not only in the README file, it's also a file there. Because once you have the file in the repo, GitHub automatically will enhance the experience of the viewer to understand quickly which license this project is available on. Add a code of conduct. In any type of open community like this one, the community building an open source project, eventually problems will appear. You will have trolls, you will have people misbehaving. That's why it's important to have a code of conduct right out of the gate, because now you, as the community manager of that project, you have something that you can point on. This document is the way for those that want to report something, some behaviors that are not according to your code of conduct. They should find there the instructions on how to do it. Keep in mind that in the first phase of your project, you might not have problems like this because you don't have a big community, but eventually when a project is successful, it's a numbers game. Eventually someone that misbehaves will appear. There will be one case that someone feels uncomfortable, and you need to have those things in place. Use tags, releases, and versioning. When I'm adopting a new open source project and I can't find the changelog, I will feel quite uncomfortable. Why? Because I have experience to understand that sometimes we'll need to go back to a dependency and try to find what changed in a given version that caused something to break. I might need to go to the changelog trying to understand if there was something there that could cause a given problem. If I can't find that, if I can't find which version the code is assigned to, if I can't find those releases, I will not feel comfortable. So that's why it's so important to have those things in place. Using tags, using releases, writing good changelog, have versioning in place, because that is extremely valuable for those that are adopting your project. Provide a well-organized documentation. I know, we usually don't like to write documentation, but my experience tells me that documentation is likely the most decisive factor for the success of a project. If I land into a project and I can't quickly find the answers for the things that I'm trying to do, eventually I will struggle and I will stop using it. So how can you build your documentation? GitHub has a wiki, but nowadays it's quite easy to set up a static site generator to build the proper website for your documentation, and you can keep your files as Markdown. So you also have the versioning and you can quickly see what changed between versions. What is always interesting when I'm trying to go back in my changelog and I want to see how should I do this thing in a given version. What is cool. But what is important to understand is that your documentation should have some things. The first one is a proper introduction. Some of the information that you'll find on the introduction, you already have it on the README file. But here is the moment where you expand a bit more. You go deeper on the mission of your project. You go deeper on the goals of your project. You expand the features that are available in your product, in your project. And you can once again list those links that are quite useful, like how to get in touch with the community and all of that. Then you need a getting started area. This area is one of the most important areas of your documentation. Why? Because the amount of time that I will need to spend to put your thing that you are making available, working to build the Hello World case, it's extremely important to me to understand if I really want to invest a lot of time in your technology or not. If it's something complex, for example, and I quickly do it, my perceived value of your tool will be quite high. So I'm most likely to keep evolving in the journey of adopting that tool. That's why we need to have a good getting started. On this area, you should have things like how to install the thing that you are making available. You should have a quick start that will build the first Hello World application with that thing. And also you can have there the links to samples, because eventually you might do the Hello World and you want to see something more advanced, and usually samples can be quite useful for that. The next area is guides. In the guide sections, you should find clear explanations on how to achieve individual goals. So your user wants to do something. He already went through the quick starter. He knows that you want to start using that technology. He wants to give it a chance. But now, being successful on the first attempt is essential. So we'll start looking for how to do something, okay? And it's those how to do's that we need to have proper documentation there available for them. So if they are looking to use a given feature, they eventually will look for how to use this feature, and they should have a clear guide for that. And finally, there's one section that can be extremely useful. It's something that we don't see everywhere nowadays, but it's something that if you have, will give you bonus points. That is a reference guide. A reference guide can be something a bit more detailed. It's like having a printout of the complete interface that they can use. You have an API, this is your API definition. When they want to understand which properties are available in a given method, they can do it. If they want to understand how to configure something, they can see all the properties, all the options that they have available. This is something that you don't see everywhere, but will give you bonus points. Create awareness. Once you have all this work in place, you need to do something extremely important. It's not as simple as putting things out there in the world, okay? Even if you have a great experience, you have the risk that no one will come. If no one knows that your project is available, it will be hard. They eventually will get there through using Google or searching on GitHub, but it will be hard. That's why you need to take some steps to build awareness. And there are three main things that you can do. The first one is by going to curated lists for a given type of problem and try to propose to have your technology, your project listed there. Imagine you are doing something to work with Kafka, for example, or you are doing something to work with Postgres. What you can do is by searching online for lists that someone is building, a curated list of tools to use Kafka or Postgres. So now what you can do is to propose them to list your project, because your project is either a tool for Kafka or a tool for Postgres. Someone eventually will go to that list because it's a good resource, and they will find your project there under a given set of problems. So it's likely that they will dig in deeper and they will go into your project. It's one way to create awareness. But the next ones are even more important. One thing that you can do and you can take advantage is by trying to find publications that are quite huge and try to propose them to write an article for them explaining how to solve a given type of problem by using the technology that you have built. By writing these things to those publications, we will have a lot of reach, because large publications usually have a lot of followers. They put so much content out there that they will conquer SEO, and they have a huge following, so they will promote your article and you will quickly get into the eyeballs of a lot of people. So instead of trying to write your own blog, for example, if you don't have a huge following on your blog, it's easier to go through one of those publications. The other option is by using something like famous blogs and YouTube channels. Okay, if you know a given author that eventually might be interested on the library, on the framework, on the tool that you have been building, try to reach out to explain to them that you are building this thing to solve this type of problem. You thought that it might be useful to their audience, so you would like to collect feedback from them. Don't reach out looking for promotion, okay? Reach out looking for advice. Eventually, if that author, if that creator finds your thing useful, they might promote it as well, because creators are always looking for new topics to talk about. So if they find that in fact you are solving a problem and they think that you have a good solution, they might talk about it, okay? But don't reach out by looking for free promotion. Do it in the spirit of collecting feedback from someone that can inform your roadmap. But eventually it might be a byproduct of your action that they might talk about it. And those are the moments that your project can explode. And what about you? Do you have any other tip that you want to share? I would love to hear from you. In meanwhile, make sure you watch this video right here.